Turning now to a wrap of your top stories of your morning. We are learning at least 4 people here in North Carolina have now died due to the flooding from Tropical Storm Chantal. 1 person died in Alamance County, another in Orange, and at least 2 in Chatham County. We're told 3 of those happened while the victims were driving during peak flooding.
Charlotte Fire and Medic have reached an agreement on how first responder calls are handled. The fire chief shared a post on social media overnight outlining that agreement. It includes more EMT and paramedic staffing as well as an expanded medic fleet.
All right, let's take a look at this right now. You can see this crash. This is on I-85 eastbound on that 321 southbound ramp that is going to be blocked for right now. You can see that they are trying to get that truck upright. So we will continue to keep you updated on when that ramp reopens.
Thanks a lot, Megan. We have the double duo today, a weather alert for flooding and also severe storms. Primarily, it's after 2 o'clock. I think we see the storms starting to really evolve across the area, but then heading into the evening, that's where things really start to evolve. So weather alert today, tomorrow for the same reason. Less storms on Friday, but still a flood threat. And then the usual summer pattern heading into the weekend.
Yeah, it clears up for Saturday. Perfect time.
Of course.
A reminder that the news doesn't end here. We are live all day with breaking news, weather, and traffic.
We're streaming on WCNC Plus. We'll see you there.
Streaming live right now at 7 a.m. right here on WCNC Plus. I'm Ben Thompson.
And I'm Kaylin Hagwood in for Lisa. We are tracking the chance of strong, slow-moving storms today and again over the next few days. So we're weather alert.
Let's go ahead and turn it over to meteorologist Chris Mulcahy, bringing us up to speed on what we need to know. Chris.
Especially what's been happening around the country recently, just here in North Carolina, New Mexico, over in Texas. Whenever people hear flooding, they might be paying a closer attention to it otherwise than they have in the past. And that's exactly what we're keeping an eye on as well, because slow moving storms means heavy rain over a long period of time. And that could mean 2 to 4 inches of rain today alone. And if that builds over a couple of days, that's just going to lead to more insult to injury and a higher flood threat. So Monroe right now looking gorgeous. Good news is today, tomorrow, and on Friday, the morning's looking A-OK. Might deal with a little bit of fog from place to place, but not too bad. 75 degrees, that looks to be our low for the morning, settling out there. 72 for you in Statesville. 63 degrees right around Boone, then 71 right around Morganton. The rest of the morning, seeing temperatures jumping into the mid 80s by about 10 o'clock. 90 degrees, hello, good to be back here by noon. But you're not going to be dealing with the heat that we had yesterday. Yesterday was at 98, today 93. Not saying it will feel that much better because it's still going to have a chance of hitting 100 degrees. Today's actually a little bit more humid, so sometimes those things will balance out. 91 degrees right around Hickory, and then 93 for a high closer to the greater Charlotte area. So let's get to that muggy meter. Now today and tomorrow, this is where we're going to be. It's going to feel much hotter than the actual air temperature, so that means it's still feeling like the upper 90s. But with all that moisture, and then you have a front that's colliding into all this, that's going to lead to some more storms. And since we don't really have a big push in the jet stream, anything gliding things or cruising across the state, this is going to allow for slow moving storms to kind of do what they want. So it's really tough to pinpoint, hey, you're going to have this amount of rain here, it's going to be in, it's going to be out at this point. You just have a wide window of when it could rain, and for some it could rain for several hours. But we only have a few of us under a flood watch until 2 a.m. The reason why Stanley, Anson, and Richmond County are under a flood watch is because of this. This is the rain from Chantal. Some areas saw over 8 inches of rain during a short period of time, and some areas actually in Richmond County saw up to 5 inches. That means that they're a little bit more flood prone because of the recent rains. Charlotte hasn't nearly seen as much rain in the last couple of days, really dried things out. But today and tomorrow, storms and flooding are the big two criteria. And then by about Friday, we might knock this one off for our weather alert days, but there's still a chance for an isolated storm. We'll just see the way the next couple of days go. But really, today through Friday, flooding is going to be the #1 concern. Of course, dangerous lightning whenever you have frequent thunderstorms, and then some damaging winds up to about 60 miles per hour are going to be a possibility. So today's kind of a double threat today. We have that flood alert, and then also a chance for some severe storms, each of them in the orange for the afternoon and the evening hours. And here's the setup for these slow moving storms. You're pumping in moisture from the south. You got a stationary front, a quasi-stationary front that's kind of doing one of these, barely moving, and that's going to trigger up some storms starting in the mountains. And then they'll eventually work their way off towards the east. Once they all gather together, that's where you have the most widespread rain, and those storms could linger well through the evening and fading out really close to about midnight. Here's what that looks like. The first signs of storms could come as early as noon to 1. I think by about 3 o'clock, we're seeing the first storms really outside of the mountains, but the mountains and the foothills, widespread rain. Once you get to about the end of the afternoon, check this out. I'll get my big dome out of the way so you can see the time. 6 p.m., that's widespread rain, and look, it doesn't really move that much over the coming hours. Well, my clicker's actually not advancing, so it looked extra slow. 7 o'clock to about 8 o'clock, look at all this rain. It's not really moving too much. I mean, some of these areas are picking up to about 2 to 3 inches of rain when all is said and done. So there's a chance for severe thunderstorm warnings, especially during the afternoon to the early evening. And by the late afternoon through the evening, flash flood warnings are going to be a possibility. This rain is also going to be a continual trend for tomorrow. But notice tomorrow's map. It looks very similar by about 3 o'clock. I think we have some more bald spots here and there on the map, but you start to see it become more widespread yet again, closing in on sunset, and then it clears out thereafter. And Friday, measly compared to what we are seeing over the next couple of days. Few of those pulse storms could lead to some heavier rain, but I think the flood threat is pretty much dropping off at that point, and then the same thing heading into the weekend. The weekend, 92 to 94 degrees. This is what you expect for this time of the year. That typical 20 to 30% starting to bud up, meaning that, hey, you have a chance for a storm that could really end the day or start off the evening. But most of the afternoons looking A-OK, at least to begin with, besides that storm or two. So actually a pretty good time to get rid of these red bars just in time for the weekend. Now, it's not a great time for your morning commute for what Megan's been talking about all morning long.
No, it's been a mess, really. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at this. This is on the ramp on I-85 as you are on 321 as you head south. You can see they do have this tractor trailer up right there. This is from it's been going on for about an hour. You can see all of those crews out there. We are working to learn the condition of the driver right now, but so far that is still closed, but it does look like that truck. Oh, nope, still on its side. I can't see this morning. Still on its side, trying to get it upright as we go through. Let's take a look at your map right now. As you can see, oh, nope, that's the wrong map. But hey, let's take a look at this. This is South Carolina, looking pretty nice right now. Definitely something that we haven't really seen as far as North Carolina goes, because we have been just absolutely crazy this morning. Okay, now let's take a look at that ramp. I-85 eastbound ramp. You can definitely see that is closed right there. Here's your alternative route. You take 321 to 279, and then you can just head back on I-85 as you are heading to work this morning. We also have this. This was a crash on I-85 northbound near exit 27. That is backed up for about 3.5 miles. You were only going 12 miles per hour. That crash is clear, though. Just having some struggles this morning. Ben?
All right, Meg, thank you. Well, as dangerous heat grips the Carolinas, people in Gastonia now have a better, also a safer place to cool down. It comes after quite a bit of controversy over the city's cooling center. WCNC Charlotte's Richard Devane now live here on WCNC Plus. He is in Gastonia this morning. And Richard, I mean, typically speaking, cooling center and controversy aren't two things that go together, but in this case, it did.
Yeah, they found a way right here in Gastonia to make this a controversial issue. Good morning to you, Ben. Good morning, Kaylin. Good Wednesday morning, everyone. Yeah, I'm standing outside of what is the old Salvation Army facility. This is located on Broad Street right here in downtown Gastonia. Now, when the temperatures reach those heavy degrees, those hot degrees and dangerously hot, a lot of folks needed someplace to cool off, and this was someplace that folks thought would be a good solution for that. But at first, the city didn't have any place for people to go inside to cool off, and that caused a lot of controversy. There was intense backlash over what many called an unacceptable outdoor setup that city leaders had set up. That was outside, fans just in a shaded part of the city. But now they've opened this temporary indoor cooling station right here on Broad Street. The center will operate Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., but only when the heat index hits 95 degrees or higher. That outside cooling center actually opens when or is available whenever the temperatures are over 90 degrees or up to 95 degrees. Now, the facility will stay open through at least next week. That's when the council meets again. In the meantime, volunteers and local nonprofits say they're stepping in to provide food and water and supplies. Now, as temperatures continue to climb, many residents and advocates say the city must do more and faster. The move follows days of political infighting and a failed emergency council meeting that drew public outrage when only a few of the council members showed up. Mayor Richard Franks called the situation a humanitarian crisis. He says it makes the city look bad. Here's from one of the council members who was also at that meeting, and then you'll also hear from a person who says they're trying to fill the gap for the city's homeless. Take a listen.
How many days did we allow people to suffer? How many days did we allow people to be in harm's way because of politics?
We are going to do what's best for every citizen. And some of my compadres on the right side of the aisle are going to get mad because a little bit of money has to be spent. That's okay, because you got to do what's right. And we are.
We are volunteering. We are making sure people get fed. We're making sure they've got ice cold water, Gatorade, snacks, and we're giving the kids something to do outside of being in this heat.
Yeah, so that's so important when it gets hot. These temperatures, we may get a reprieve today. Hopefully the temperatures don't get above 90 degrees, and that will provide some relief for those folks who are in desperate need of housing. Our city's insecure. Housing insecure, I should say. Right now, we're in Gastonia. This is Richard Devane. We'll send it back to you.
Richard, you touched on the fact that certain conditions have to be met for this facility to open. Do you get the sense that this is going to be a permanent solution going forward, as in this is how the city is going to handle it going forward, or this is going to be something they're going to have to revisit every single summer?
Oh, okay. Every single summer. This is something that they're trying to make permanent for this week. I mean, this summer, this year, right now. But and whenever there's dollars involved, there's people who want to revisit it. This facility, by the way, is owned by the city. They've had their city crews out cleaning the grounds today. So that's also a good sign. Hopefully, they can make this a standard operating procedure, like in Charlotte, where they have places where folks can go, and eventually the folks who are housing insecure know these locations are available. That's the goal. We'll find out a lot more about whether or not this is permanent for just this summer or going forward. And the centers like this, not only for when it's hot, can be used, but also when it gets extremely bitterly cold and people need to find a place to seek help. That's the hope. We'll keep you posted.
Yeah. We should say there's a lot of folks here with a lot of good intentions here, and just trying to find the best way forward and try to take care of some of these folks. All right, Richard, thank you. 7:11 right now on WCNC Plus. Turning now to a story that could directly impact your family's safety. Charlotte Fire and Medic have reached an agreement on how first responder calls are handled here in Mecklenburg County. The fire chief sharing a post on social media overnight. Take a look. It outlines the agreement. It includes more EMT and paramedic staffing, as well as an expanded medic fleet. That could mean faster response times in emergencies. For nearly a year now, there's been ongoing tension over when firefighters should step in and assist medic on emergency calls. The fire chief says this is a step in the right direction, but more still needs to be done.
If you're ever worried about cars speeding through school zones, a new law could give you some peace of mind. North Carolina Governor Josh Stein just signed a law allowing cities to set speed cameras in school zones. Anyone caught speeding would have to pay $250, but it won't add any points to your license. And the town of Mooresville continuing to grow, and so does the issue with downtown parking. Now the town is moving forward with a project that hopes to fix that problem. It would add over 500 spots along with retail and restaurant spaces. And while it will bring more traffic to the area, neighbors are just hoping it will also keep the downtown's charm.
Don't want to see it in a parking garage format, honestly. I don't want Mooresville to lose kind of the quaint downtown vibe that we have right now.
Officials say the design is being carefully crafted to blend in and should be ready in the next couple of years. Rescue and recovery efforts do continue across North Carolina this morning after Tropical Storm Chantal. So far, at least 4 people have died in the flooding. First responders say they're feeling the toll on their mental and emotional health, since most of them do live in the communities where they serve. Responders in areas like Pleasant Grove say the rescues have been particularly stressful because they don't have a boat and they're not swift water rescue trained.
All right, now to New Mexico, where thousands are waking up to damage this morning after catastrophic flooding near Rio Doso. This is the same area where fires tore through last year, killing 2 people and burning hundreds of homes. Overnight, slow-moving thunderstorms brought torrential rain, triggering flash flooding. Video shows one home being carried away by the water. I mean, goodness gracious. Emergency teams carried out at least 85 swift water rescues. That's a lot. Right now, at least 3 people are still missing as of this morning.
Now to a live look right now over the Guadalupe River in Texas, where the death toll is now up to 110 people. Search and rescue efforts are underway this morning for the 160 still missing after the catastrophic flooding that started from the river.
There was an objection to sirens because of false alarms.
Do you think sirens could have saved lives here?
Most likely so, yes. Yes, I'm confident they could have.
Well, officials are facing tough questions this morning over Kerr County's flood emergency alert system. Many people say they weren't given enough warning, and Kerr County does not have a county-wide siren system. A former county commissioner says he proposed adding one after a 2015 flood, but funding requests were denied. And it does come as search and rescue teams continue to sift through debris. NBC's Morgan Chesky has a closer look at the search for survivors.
With more than 160 missing in the Texas Hill Country,
we have another search party down there.
Tireless search and rescue teams fighting their latest challenge, time.
And that is the sound that is really nonstop, even on day 5 here on the banks of the Guadalupe River. These search crews still going.
Governor Abbott surveyed the damage at Camp Mystic from the air.
We will not stop until every missing person is accounted for.
The sheriff says 5 campers and 1 counselor are still unaccounted for, as we learn more about the young girls who lost their lives there. Blakely McCrory, Hadley Hanna, Lenny McCown, and Mary Stevens were all just 8 years old. This harrowing photo showing 1 cabin of girls, several now confirmed dead. When Kennedy returned to Camp Mystic on Sunday and took these pictures, a glimpse of what her 10-year-old daughter Lucy and her fellow campers went through. That's Lucy's bunk bed surrounded by debris. Tiny clothes still hang in a closet where the water line is several feet high. You can see it again here in the girl's shower. Lucy says she woke up that night to rain and thunder.
People from different cabins started coming to our porch and yelling wake up and go to rec hall because there's a flood.
How would you describe that 4-hour window where you didn't know how Lucy was?
I mean, just the longest 4 hours of my life.
Lucy says when the sun rose, they drove to another camp where they were eventually evacuated by helicopter.
When I saw her, she was wrapped up in a blanket and had a teddy bear. So we just held each other tight, and I held her all night, and just so grateful to God.
Morgan Chesky, NBC News, Kerrville, Texas.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott says more than 20 state agencies are responding in the aftermath. President Trump also confirms he plans to travel to Texas with the First Lady to survey the damage. Now, Ben, we know plenty of people from here in the Carolinas are pitching in to help as well.
You know, that's right. Folks who survived Hurricane Helene last year understand this all too well. They also understand the generosity of strangers and what a difference it can make. That's why they're pitching in. Reporter Caitlin Ashba shows us how volunteers here are returning that favor.
Box after box, filling trailer after trailer.
This is the third trip that we are taking to Texas. So yesterday we sent 2, and today we are sending another one.
It's more than just supplies packing these vehicles. Every mile they take to Texas is a stance of solidarity.
Even if we're 18, 20 hours away, it's very powerful to say we're neighbors and we're taking care of neighbors. And we want to talk about, in this time of great division, we want to bring people together.
Kerr County, Texas grows desperate. Search and rescue continues 4 days after catastrophic flooding turned entire communities into a flood zone. The organization says Texas was one of the first on the ground when disaster struck in western North Carolina. Asheville knows too well this recovery will require a village.
Even as we're rebuilding here, we just finished our 100th rebuild, and we want to make sure that our neighbors in Texas, our neighbors in eastern North Carolina have the support they need.
Well, more help is pouring into the state this morning after South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster authorized the state's Task Force 1 to help with recovery efforts. McMaster promised the state will offer any support it can, saying Texas has been there for South Carolina in its toughest moments. Now he says the state will return that support and stand by them during this tragedy.
Hey, Chris, we mentioned New Mexico. Of course, we went over Texas. We even talked about Helene. Is there any common thread among all these flooding emergencies?
One thing that you're seeing is there's always some sort of precursor event that kind of primes things for this. It's very rare that this just happens out of nowhere.
You're talking about how before Helene, we saw several days of heavy rain,
Exactly.
and then the actual big event came.
Yeah, picture like you're filling up a bucket of water, and then eventually there's a certain point that it starts overflowing. Same thing goes for flooding. That you kind of need the soils to be primed before this excessive runoff. You need the streams to kind of be even at that active stage before it gets to that point. Texas had already seen days of rain prior to this. Mexico had already seen previous rains. Now, a tropical system is different because that's just dumping hours of rain. So the only one that's a little bit separate from all the rest is what happened with Chantal here in North Carolina. But the other ones are very similar because you saw one thunderstorm after another. And here, I'm going to show you that right now. Check this out. So this is what we've seen over the last 48 hours, by the way, here in Texas. But then looking at the hourly or just over the last 96 hours as far as how much rain has fallen here, this is going to be the estimated rainfall that's right around where we had that potential flooding. here. Let me bring up the tool. This is actually absolutely staggering. So this is over the last 96 hours, actually, showing about 10 inches of rain. But you already had swollen creeks, and the Guadalupe River was already pretty much at a max at that point. Now, there could be other ones that are still pretty prime. You've seen over the last 48 hours here in New Mexico, you had one round of rain that was the precursor. Really, some of the excessive flooding that you saw where houses rolled down the river was that secondary wave that we saw there. And here I'll show you. You already have some flood reports here, but then that secondary batch of rain moved through. So one after another, one after another. And Ben brought up a perfect point. Helene wouldn't have been Helene if you didn't have the rain that came before then. It actually would have been still bad flooding. It wouldn't have been historic flooding as you've seen here back to back. And then another look at the estimated rainfall. This is actually over the last 48 hours. Only estimated about 5 inches of rain, but then oftentimes rivers, you have to also think that if it's raining upstream, it's also getting that rain as well. So it kind of compounds. So you can't just focus on the 5 to 11 inches. It could actually be a whole lot more. But I also want to bring up another thing. Your flash flood warnings that you receive are not always driven to your phone. The most basic, the most common, I think it's usually about 90% of all flash flood warnings are just general flash flood warnings, meaning, hey, water is rising up, we need to be alerted about this, but your phone will not be alerted by the wireless or emergency alert system. But once it becomes a considerable flash flood warning, which, by the way, that means life is actively being threatened. We had considerable flash flood warnings that were going off here in North Carolina for that low-end tropical depression from one rain shower after another. So that's the commonality here. Once you reach flash flood emergency status, New Mexico saw that. There was an active flash flood emergency before everything even went down in the campground. However, sometimes when you're camping out in the middle of nowhere, you're not going to get these alerts on your phone. So that's one of the downfalls. And there were reports that a lot of people weren't receiving these just because of reception, or they didn't have their cell phone in general. And one event that really reminds me is November of 2020, the Hidden Night Campground. We had days of rain, a flash flood watch, and then we had that final rain of everything flowed down, and the next thing you know, the river was swollen 4 times what it usually is. So you always have to just keep in mind that that's going to be a possibility whenever you have compounded rain. And then that brings up my last point, and that's the reason why we're weather alert today. We haven't received a lot of rain here in Charlotte, but some areas east of us have. Notice what our futurecast looks like. You're seeing one rain shower after another, one rain shower after another. This band of rain could dump 2 to 4 inches. Now imagine if we go another day, tomorrow, so that's just the precursor, let's call it the primer, we see this again. Watch, you have scattered showers and thunderstorms, same thing. If this continues to compound and you see 2 days of 2 to 4 inches of rain back to back, that's where flash flood warnings usually go to flash flood considerable warnings, and that's why we're staying weather alert over the next couple of days. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to see what Texas saw, what New Mexico saw, or a repeat of what just happened east of Greensboro. I'm just letting you know we're staying weather alert for a really good reason, where flood stories are becoming more and more prevalent, especially over the last week or really over the last few years. Megan, let's get over to traffic for you.
Okay, let's take a look at traffic right now. We have I-85 eastbound entry ramp. That's still closed. It's been closed for a little over an hour now. You can see this live look here. They are working to get that truck up back right from its side. We are working to learn if there are any injuries on this accident, but you can see crews out there working really hard to clear it up so people can start moving again. But let's take a look at this on the map. As you can see, that closure right there, I-85 eastbound for that US 321 ramp southbound. Here's where you can take that alternative route. You go 321 to 279 on down to 85. That will bring it right back there to where you need to go. We also are tracking this accident right now. This is Orchard Gate Drive. That's a crash at NC 49. As you are heading from Lake Wiley to Charlotte, you can see lots of slowdowns there. Let's take a look at I-77 near Tyvola. Moving pretty smooth this morning. Looking pretty good on I-77 near that south. Guys?
All right. Megan, thanks. We're talking about world record titles, travel and leisure, revealing the annual World's Best Awards. The #1 U.S. travel destination might surprise you.
The top spot for 2025 is, drum roll please, Santa Fe, New Mexico. That's right. Travel and Leisure says its readers love the city's cuisine and natural beauty. Santa Fe unseated Charleston, which held the top spot for 12 years straight. Coming in at number 2 is New Orleans. Rounding out the top 5 are Charleston with number 3, Savannah, Georgia. Number 4, Alexandria, Virginia is at number 5. You know, Charleston is just a beautiful place. You just have to go and see it. And honestly, maybe this makes it even better.
Yeah, that's right. You know, Greenville, South Carolina, and Asheville also making the list. So the Carolinas very well represented.
Yeah,
Not surprising at all, right?
I know.
And after we aired the story earlier, I looked at pictures of Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I was like, oh, this does look like a delightful place to visit.
Lovely.
All I know is they have a big hot air balloon festival every year. It's supposedly really cool. All right, folks, 7:25. Live pictures right now over Uptown. More news, weather, and traffic coming your way right here on WCNC Plus.
Well, good morning, everybody. Well, we're exchanging weather alert for the heat for flooding and a severe storm potential. So welcome to your Wednesday, y'all. By the time you get to about 1 to 3 o'clock, we're seeing storms popping up here on the map, but it's primarily going to be really the middle of the afternoon. I think that we're going to have our highest storm threshold. Really, it's about mid to late afternoon is going to be a chance for a severe thunderstorm to roll on through. And then once you get to about the early to mid evening, that's where I think we could have the most widespread rain. Same thing in the same scenario for tomorrow. It's really about 3 to 9 that we're going weather alert, and we might drop off the weather alert status for Friday because the storms look to be more isolated than scattered, but still flood and flood potential is going to be the main thing and the focus of that weather alert time frame. After that, we have 92 to 94 acting like summer usually does through the weekend. Megan, take it away.
Yeah, if you take a look at this is I-85 at 321 as you head on south towards that ramp. You can see that a truck is overturned. This is shut down, crews working to get there. Now, here's your alternative route. If you do take 321 to 279, you can get back onto I-85 very simply. So just take that route. Know that 321 is shut down. That's southbound. But back to the Today Show. And of course, we're always streaming live on WCNC Plus.
Happy Wednesday, and thank you so much for joining us here live on WCNC Plus at 7:30. I'm Kaylin Hagwood in for Lisa.
And I'm Ben Thompson. It's a weather impact alert day, folks, and we are tracking that chance of strong, slow-moving storms today and again over the next several days.
It comes as we learn at least 4 people have died due to flooding from Tropical Storm Chantal. 1 person died in Alamance County, another in Orange County, and at least 2 in Chatham County. We're told 3 of those happened while the victims were driving during peak flooding. Governor Stein did visit Alamance and Orange counties yesterday to survey that damage. He praised first responders and neighbors who are offering support to the victims.
And it's what shows, what reveals the truth of North Carolina, which is when people need help, the people of North Carolina will be there for their neighbors.
Well, with more storms expected this week, the governor is urging folks to sign up for their county's emergency alert system.
All right, now back to our forecast for the day ahead. Chris joins us right now. Weather impact alert for today, Chris, because of potential rain and flooding.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be really a 2-day event, even though we're weather alert for the next 3 days. But today and tomorrow looks to be the worst, and that's where we're seeing the most widespread rain. And it's just all dependent on where these thunderstorms are going to set up. That some of us, some of you watching, could see up to 4+ inches of rain over the next couple of days. So most of that could even fall today. There's going to be what's called training storms, where you have one thunderstorm after another, and 2 similarities that we've had, actually 3 similarities for the biggest flood events over the last week. Texas, New Mexico, and then this one here in North Carolina was that one storm after another, slow movement especially, and that's why the area of green was the biggest impacts that we saw from Chantal, and was indeed deadly, as we've seen for all 3 events. But it's the eastern side of our viewing area, Stanley, Anson, in Richmond County, you're specifically the only ones under a flood watch until 2 a.m. Typically, whenever we have our worst flooding events, oftentimes it's a flood watch that's a precursor, and that's exactly what happened over in Texas. Not saying that we're going to be looking at a Texas-like event. I'm just letting you know that this is the current setup, that where you already saw some flooding rains east of Greensboro and west of Raleigh, right in this area, that was up to 8+ inches of rain, but some areas actually saw 4 to 5 inches in the far eastern side of Richmond County. So that's why it's specifically only those 3 counties that are under a flood watch for the near term. Today, tomorrow, highest threats for rain. That also jogs into your Friday, but I think that really starts to come down as we head into the weekend. Far less likelihood to see rain heading into the weekend. It's just that typical 20% chance. Slow-moving thunderstorms are the biggest cause of flash flooding, especially when you have them over multiple days. This type of pattern cranks in moisture from the south, so the day actually feels a little bit more humid than yesterday, just not as hot. But we have a stationary front that's going to drive up a lot of this activity over the next couple of days, and that's leading to clusters of storms during the afternoon that barely move any. Pretty much they have to almost exhaust themselves, but then sometimes a new one can form behind that, and it can continue raining in one place over a long period of time. That is the scenario today and tomorrow. But there's also a chance, of course we have to have this as well, chance for severe thunderstorms, because these are thunderstorms dumping this rain. This is also going to be a possibility for some gusty winds up to 60 miles per hour, specifically today and tomorrow. It's a little bit more isolated in nature for Friday, but you don't even need to be under a designated low or medium threat for a severe thunderstorm this time of year. If it's a hot, humid day, any one of those thunderstorms could be a little bit stronger. For a future cast, we first see our signs of developing thunderstorms by about noon to 2. These are going to be those cumulus clouds that have a flat bottom and they start to grow vertically. Eventually, sometimes they can form the anvil, and then we're talking about thunderstorms or cumulonimbus clouds. By about 3 o'clock, I think we're seeing most of the rain and storm activity up in the mountains and the foothills. But you will have a chance for some isolated thunderstorms. So really anything in the afternoon, you're going to have a chance for a strong thunderstorm. Here's the cause of concern as far as the flood threat for today. 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock is where we start to gather all the storms together, where it could be over one given area for an extended period of time. This version of our futurecast, the one that's been the most reliable over the last couple of weeks, is showing that some areas anywhere between Lincolnton to Rock Hill, either side of the I-85 corridor, could have 2+ inches to even up to 4 inches of rain today alone. Not saying that that for sure is going to come to fruition, but we are seeing signs of that. And I think it's really early to mid-evening that we have some of the heaviest rain that comes upon this. It just depends on where those thunderstorms are going to set up. So I think most of us will see rain at one point today. Just some areas are going to see rain for several hours, and that's where the problems can really start to develop, which, by the way, if you get an alert on your phone today for a flash flood warning, that means you're under a considerable flash flood warning, and that means that life and property is being threatened immediately right now. If it's just a general flash flood warning, meaning that conditions are increasing, you're not going to be alerted. But anytime your phone or the wireless emergency alert system, the same thing comes with an Amber Alert, that really frightening alert sound, if you get one of those, that's going to be a problem. The last time that we had one in the Charlotte area was that excessive rain that was right around Tyvola Road. Saw a quick 5 inches of rain. That is a possibility today for any one of us across the greater Charlotte area, so keep that in mind. Especially so tomorrow, because I think we're going to prime the soils a little bit more. If the same areas that saw a lot of rain today see it again tomorrow, that's where we're going to have a problem, and that's especially for areas further off towards the east. If we get a lot of rain today, likely that flood watch is going to be expanded a little bit further off towards the west. But your Friday, though, look at that. You barely have anything, only an isolated storm or two. So Friday right now looking to be the least threatening over the next several. Here's a look at our futurecast. Again, just take this with a grain of salt. Oftentimes this picks up more of the possibility where it could happen, not absolutely going to happen. Sometimes it nails it, but this is showing anywhere from about 1.5 to 4 inches of rain. Notice the time. That's Wednesday at 11 p.m. By tomorrow, see more showers and thunderstorms that could roll through, really increasing these numbers, bringing us up to 2 inches, the areas that saw barely anything at all. So it just depends where that rain's going to set up. So now you know chances for thunderstorms with gusty winds and, of course, ongoing rain on and off, especially after 2 o'clock each day. More so tomorrow, I think, between about 3 to 9. Our 7-day forecast shows all red to begin with. And then once you get to the weekend, just in time, we're starting to calm things down. Then you have the usual summertime pattern. It's hot. It's humid. 92 to 94, which is slightly above normal for this time of July, actually. But you will have a chance for an isolated storm or two. It's kind of more of an unlucky game once you get to that point if you do get a storm. But it shouldn't last long. Just go inside, stay weather aware, and then you're good to go. But over the next few days, I want you to be extra weather alert, especially by the end of the afternoon, heading into the evening for strong storms and or some of that flooding. Now also be traffic alert because, boy, has it been a morning, Megan.
Oh, yeah, it's been a morning, Chris. Lots going on. I know I'm sighing here. This is a look at I-85 eastbound. This is going to be the 321 ramp right here. So you're looking at 321. That is the ramp. This is south, and you can see that truck is still over. We've been tracking this for about an hour and 15-ish minutes. Crews working to get that truck on the upright, I should say, so that ramp is open again. But let's take a look at your map right here. This is where that ramp is. Lots of closures, or I should say lots of slowdowns because of that. But let's take a look at alternative routes here. So if you are taking if you need to go on 321, I would say to take 321 to 279, I should say, and then on to I-85. It'll take you right back that way. There is another crash that I'm tracking right now. This is I-77 south near I-277. That's going to be near exit 11. You can see that as you are trying to get to exit 11, that ramp, or excuse me, not that ramp, that lane is closed as you do head on to there. So one lane closed right now, causing some slowdowns. You can see all of that backup near Brookshire Freeway. So another crash we're tracking, Orchard Gate Drive. That's a crash at NC 49. So lots of crashes that we are tracking right now. A very, very slow morning out there for you, Charlotte.
Good morning for you. All right. Megan, thanks. We're learning new details this morning about the arrest of a local football coach, Damon Coiro, coached at Providence Day School. This morning, though, he's waking up behind bars. The 45-year-old admitted to having an inappropriate relationship with a student dating back to 2023. Investigators say he offered to buy her alcohol and made sexually explicit comments, even asking to see her topless. He's being held on a $75,000 bond and was ordered not to contact that student. Well, if you live in Wingate, or perhaps like a lot of folks, you drive through Wingate on the way to the beach every summer, this could impact you and your family. A community meeting meant to clear up confusion about that town's police department may have raised even more questions. WCNC Charlotte's Tradisha Woodard takes a closer look at who will be there when you call for help.
Wingate town leaders reassuring the community they're not just doing away with the police department. They say instead they're exploring better options that are cost efficient. Conversations continue to linger about whether the Wingate Police Department will close.
We came here looking for some answers. We wanted to look for some transparency.
Town leaders say the move comes down to two decisions: money and manpower.
Keep in mind that with the exception of the 4 months, we have not been fully staffed in 2 years.
They say along with those high turnover rates, the cost for 7 Wingate police has increased to $826,000. A price tag they anticipate exceeding over $1 million over the next few years. But town leaders say the enforcement won't disappear. A contract with the Union County Sheriff's Office would assign 4 officers to the area, averaging about $523,000 annually.
Let the Sheriff's Department do it. They do such a great job already.
While some folks say the move will save money and keep streets protected,
I don't see things getting worse. I see them continuing on and getting better.
Others argue it's a tough shift.
I really believe that we really need to keep our police officers.
Officers say they're willing to do whatever it takes to continue protecting its own community.
I'll share this with you guys. We've all agreed we will not take a pay raise. Our part-timers will not take one. Our full-timers will not take one. We're the lowest paid in the county. We're proud to wear that right now.
The Union County Sheriff's Office also speaking out in the meeting, saying they're already taking calls in this community. They say if a contract is signed, there will be high-quality service. Of course, the final decision is set to be made next Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Reporting in Wingate, Tradisha Woodard, WCNC Charlotte.
7:41 right now on WCNC Plus and staying in Union County. In Monroe, city leaders sending a strong message overnight, a vote of no confidence for Mayor Robert Burns. It all stems from a series of controversies, including some divisive posts made on his Facebook page. The council also voted to remove Mayor Pro Tem David Dotson. Burns responding in a statement saying in part, quote, "This vote is nothing but a petty gripe session and political hit because they have no legal standing." However, the vote is symbolic and doesn't lead to any sort of action.
There's good news this morning for travelers. The Department of Homeland Security just announced that TSA will allow passengers to keep their shoes on as they go through security. NBC's Tom Costello breaks down the change and why TSA feels comfortable.
It's a major security shift at TSA checkpoints nationwide. Effective immediately, all passengers can keep their shoes on. No need to screen them separately. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says 94% of passengers now have real IDs, improving identity confirmation. And TSA procedures and checkpoints have improved.
We've added new scanners, new technologies, more TSO officers in some areas.
The TSA began screening shoes for explosives in 2006 after shoe bomber Richard Reed attempted to blow up a flight from Paris to Miami in 2001. While pre-checked passengers have been able to leave their shoes on, removing shoes has been a top complaint among all passengers.
For women, it's like, ew, I don't want to touch the floor.
In December, we saw how detecting explosives is still a top priority at the TSA range in Huntsville.
This is what's left, a piece of a shoe and the handle from a suitcase. The bottom line is this would have been catastrophic, and the TSA and the FBI continue to focus on mitigating the threat of potentially catastrophic explosives.
Security experts believe the terror threat remains real, even as new technology provides better detection and shoes stay on. Secretary Noem says TSA PreCheck will still be valuable for passengers who don't want to remove their laptops, and she says passenger safety will not be compromised.
That was Tom Costello reporting. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem also warns you may still have to take your shoes off in certain situations.
The one thing that I will say is that doesn't mean that there won't be times once in a while where someone will have to remove their shoes. If they get put into a different situation or need additional layers of screening where that may be asked of them. But overwhelmingly, the policy will be that no longer will that be required of every single person that comes to a checkpoint.
Well, the new TSA rule may make it easier to get in and out through security, but there are still some lingering questions about the change. WCNC Charlotte's Megan Bragg verifies.
This is true for certain airports because I actually experienced this myself. Monday, flying from Rochester, New York to Charlotte, the TSA agent told me as part of their new rule, I was allowed to keep my shoes on. This is in line with the press release TSA sent out Monday saying they are, quote, exploring new and innovative ways to enhance the passenger experience and our strong security posture. Nearly 20 years ago, the TSA implemented shoe removal for passengers while going through security. This after a man flying from Paris to Miami attempted to ignite a fuse attached to his shoe. People who purchase pre-check are allowed to keep their shoes on while they go through security. Now that could be a reality for everyone. A senior government official told NBC News the Transportation Safety Administration will allow passengers at selected airports to keep their shoes on. We reached out to Charlotte Douglas Airport to see if this is being implemented here. And so far, they only told us in a statement, we can share CLT regularly coordinates with TSA and our federal partners to maintain secure, efficient screening operations and ensure a safe experience for all passengers and employees. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
Measles cases in the U.S. are now the highest they've been since we eliminated the disease in 2000. The health department reports more than 1,200 cases so far this year. The country also recorded its first measles deaths in a decade. The resurgence can be attributed in part to declining vaccination rates. Also this morning, several major medical organizations are suing Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and the Department of Health and Human Services. The organizations say recent actions around vaccines have triggered a public health emergency. Kennedy's department recently fired all members of a key vaccine panel of experts and removed a recommendation that kids and pregnant women get a COVID shot. The lawsuit is seeking the return of that recommendation.
In Washington, President Trump talking tariffs, trade, and the wars in Ukraine and Gaza.
He covered a lot in yesterday's cabinet meeting, including some harsh new words for Russia's president. NBC's Alice Barr is breaking it all down this morning.
President Trump with his cabinet at his side, focusing on foreign wars and trade negotiations.
I just want you to know, a letter means a deal.
Saying overnight new trade announcements are coming this morning for 7 countries after sending letters to 14 global trading partners on Monday, establishing higher tariff rates if they don't negotiate new deals before August 1st.
It's a better way. It's a more powerful way.
The president also announcing a new 50% tariff on copper imports without setting a date and saying new pharmaceutical levies of up to 200% are coming. As countries scramble to respond, Chinese officials warning the U.S. against reigniting trade tensions, promising retaliation if any deals hurt their economy. Turning to Ukraine, where Russian attacks are ramping up, President Trump confirming he approved sending more defensive weapons to Ukraine after the Pentagon paused shipments, citing concerns about low stockpiles.
Putin is not treating human beings right. He's killing too many people.
In a shift in tone, the president voicing increasing frustration with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
We get a lot of bull thrown at us by Putin, for you want to know the truth.
Now reviewing a bipartisan sanctions package against Russia, as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu meets today with Republican lawmakers and top defense officials amid a renewed push for a ceasefire with Hamas to end the devastating fighting in Gaza and bring hostages home. The White House is also celebrating a Supreme Court ruling that allows the Trump administration to move ahead, at least temporarily, with the mass layoffs of federal workers at 19 agencies, overruling a California judge who had said the administration needed input from Congress. The Supreme Court did not rule on the legality of the layoffs, but cleared the way for the firings while litigation continues. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
All right, so we have another weather alert day, And yesterday was mainly because of the heat. Didn't have to worry about storms. We hit 98 degrees, feeling like 100 plus. The day before, it was 98 degrees with a real feel around 100 degrees. Today is actually going to be a quote cooler day with a high of only 93. But here's the deal. We could still feel like 100. So what's going on here? It's actually a little bit more humid today. So still getting up to that 100-degree mark. The danger zone's really after 103. Once you get to 105, we're talking about heat advisory. So we missed that yesterday and the day before, but still going to feel hot and steamy. And eventually this is going to translate over to some storm fuel. By tomorrow, it feels a little bit better, still super muggy, but our real feel is likely only in the mid-90s. I think you might have a peak up to about 97, then 98 on Friday before it starts to feel like 100 degrees again heading into the weekend. But our rain chances are likely today for this afternoon, but most widespread for your Wednesday night and your Thursday night, and then just scattered here for your Thursday. So we're really looking at a long-range trend for flooding and storm potential that is our biggest issue. So we're weather alert today and tomorrow, primarily just for that. And then on Friday, it's any lingering flood effects that we potentially could have. So here's the deal. Storms first start to bud around 2 o'clock. It's up in the mountains that we first see these. They drift their way off towards the east. You could have an isolated storm truly as early as 1 o'clock that I'm seeing here, but it's mainly after 2, and storms are going to linger into the evening and then fade around midnight. We have a medium threshold for excessive rain, so that just means a medium threat for flash flooding. We do that again tomorrow, and then it's downgraded to just a low for your Friday, and after that we don't have to worry about showing this map for a few days. The areas that are most impacted by this are the ones that have already seen the most recent rain. We've been talking about the deadly flooding that happened from Chantal. You don't need a big-time hurricane to have deadly flooding associated with the system. This was technically a tropical depression at this point when it dumped over 8 inches of rain. That primed also our eastern areas such as Stanley, Anson, and over into Richmond County. That's why they're the only ones that are currently under that flood watch for the near term. Our severe weather risks, though, really start to build this afternoon. I think we see it again tomorrow afternoon, but by each evening, I think we're starting to cut off our severe potential and transition everything over to just really heavy rainfall and, of course, some lightning. So today and tomorrow is the best chance for those scattered storms. Today, 93 for a high, 90 degrees is where we're normally at, and that's exactly where we're going to be by tomorrow. Just note, as far as our storm are concerned, we're looking at scattered showers and storms popping up in the middle of the afternoon. I want to show you really, I think, the main window that we're seeing most of the rain. This is 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So I think really about 5 to 10 is where the most heavy rain is going to fall across the area. That's the highest threshold I think you're going to see for that flood potential. I think it's any time before 6 that's our best chance for severe thunderstorms. But any day you have a chance for severe thunderstorm warnings and flash flood warnings, you know it's quite the day. Now I want to go over to my friend who's had quite the day as well over in the traffic department. Is it any better, Megan?
You know, we're getting there, Chris. This is still shut down, though. This is I-85 eastbound, that entry ramp. You can still see that truck on its side. This entry ramp is actually US 321. It's going to be the southbound ramp. So just know that this is blocked. It's been blocked for a few hours now, and they are working to get that truck upright and that ramp to open again. Here's a look at it on the map, just so you can see alternative routes for you. You can go 321 to 279 on down, and then that way you'll get back onto 85. We are also tracking this accident, I-77 near I-277. You can see one lane is blocked as NCDOT is working right now to finish up clearing up that crash. Looks like it's going to open back up, though, at any moment. Here's a look on your map about that crash. It's near exit 10, of course, causing lots of backup. Here's another one that caused a lot of backup. Orchard Gate Drive. It's going to be a crash at NC 49. That has since cleared, but you can see all this backup near Lake Wiley as you are coming into Charlotte. So be aware of that, too. This is not one thing you need to know right now. It just popped up on my screen. So that's how my morning's going. Okay.
It's many things you need to know. Thanks so much, Megan. Nursing students at one New England school are getting some hands-on experience in a unique way. Students at Rhode Island College are actually learning with the help of a simulation lab that includes lifelike robotic mannequins. The students say these dummies have real lung and heartbeat sounds along with simulation tech that gives everything a lifelike feel.
We are definitely multitasking in there because we're listening to the professors as well as the students, making sure that they're hitting all the points that they're supposed to hit, as well as we're hitting all the points that we're supposed to hit, either making sounds, responding to questions.
Well, the birth simulators cost around $75,000, and the company that develops them donates one every time another one is bought.
All right, sticking with health, hundreds of thousands of kids have type 1 diabetes, and now there's a Barbie who has it as well.
The new doll comes with a blue polka dot crop top, ruffled miniskirt, chunky heels, and an insulin pump. She is the brand's first doll with type 1 diabetes, and the goal is to represent the more than 300,000 kids and teens and adults living with the autoimmune disease. I think this is a great effort.
Yeah, if you're a kid that has diabetes and you can see a doll that looks or acts or has the same life circumstances as you, I think that's only a good thing.
Yeah, I love that. I used to have the Madeline doll because I got my appendix out. And she has a scar and I have a scar, so I always felt, yeah, it was really nice. So I'm sure a lot of kids will love this too. Yeah.
There's a difference.
Yeah, Barbie's come a long way in recent years.
Chris's thoughts on Barbie. Live VIXers right now, we're uptown. More news, weather, and traffic next right here on WCNC Plus.
Well, good morning, everybody. Real quick, we have a double threat for your Wednesday. Severe storms could produce some wind gusts up to about 60 miles per hour, but also there's a chance for some flooding across the area. So I want everyone to be weather alert, weather aware. That's going to be a good possibility. Let's roll through that storm possibility. Here it is, right around the 8 o'clock hour. I think is where we see the most of the storms, but they really start to become scattered between about 5 to 6 to 7. I think it's really between about 5 to 10 is where most of the heavy rain is going to fall, where some areas could see up to 3+ inches of rain before this is all said and done. We can do it all over again tomorrow. That's why our weather alert for the next 3 days for that flooding and heavy rain potential. Then after that, the usual summertime pattern. It's hot, it's humid, with the chance for an isolated thunderstorm. Not a typical morning in the traffic world. Let's go over to Megan.
No, lots going on today, Chris. You can take a look at this right here. This is I-85 eastbound. This is going to be the 321 ramp. Right now, you can see that they are working to get that truck upright because this ramp has been closed for several hours now as crews are working to get that truck upright.
Let's show you an alternative route here. As you can see, 321, if you want to go 321 to 279 bound back on 85, that will get you there. But let's go back to the Today Show. And of course, we are always streaming live on WCNC Plus.
streaming live right now at 8 a.m. right here on WCNC Plus. I'm Ben Thompson.
And I'm Caitlin Hagwood in for Lisa. As we prepare for more heat and storms this week, Gastonia is now offering a safer spot for folks to escape the temperatures.
WCNC Charlotte's Richard Devane now live in Gastonia to explain what's going on. And Richard, there's a lot of folks here with good intentions who are trying to find the best way to handle this. And that's come with some controversy.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, Ben. Good morning to you. Good morning to you, Kaylin. A good Wednesday morning, everyone. Yeah, when it gets hot like this, if folks want to seek some shelter, maybe if you're in your car, you turn up that air conditioner, the same at your house. But if you don't have a place to call home, you're out on the streets, you need some place. That's why this old Salvation Army Center that the city now owns, this was once the home of the Salvation Army, is moved out. They're using this as a place where folks can come to try to beat the heat when those sweltering temperatures occur. You know, there has been some Gaston city leaders who are under fire over the handling of the cooling stations for homeless residents during this dangerous heat wave. After intense backlash over what many called an unacceptable outdoor setup, city leaders have now opened up this temporary indoor cooling station. It's located right here off of South Broad Street. The center operates Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., but only when the heat index hits 95 degrees or higher. The facility will stay open through at least next week when the city council meets again. In the meantime, volunteers and local nonprofits say they're stepping in to provide food, water, and supplies to those folks who are housing insecure. All this as temperatures continue to climb. Many residents and advocates say the city must do more and faster. The move follows days of political infighting, and this all came after a failed emergency council meeting that drew public outrage. Mayor Richard Franks has called the situation a humanitarian crisis, which makes the city look bad. Take a listen to what he and another council member had to say.
How many days did we allow people to suffer? How many days did we allow people to be in harm's way because of politics?
We are going to do what's best for every citizen. And some of my compadres on the right side of the aisle are going to get mad because a little bit of money has to be spent. That's okay, because you got to do what's right. And we are.
We are volunteering. We are making sure people get fed. We're making sure they've got ice cold water, Gatorade, snacks, and we're giving the kids something to do outside of being in this heat.
Yeah, all of them working together, they say. Now, the cause for concern and the controversy was over funding, of course, spending city funds to have a facility like this open. Of course, the mayor hopes that that is something they'll be able to solve and have this more permanent location for when folks need to beat the heat. They'll have that discussion at next week's council meeting. We're right here in Gastonia. Richard Devane, we'll send it back to you.
Richard, as you well know, I mean, there are days where it is really hot outside and it's dangerously hot, but the heat index is below 95 degrees. So are there still options for people in need there in Gastonia when it doesn't necessarily qualify for, say, this cooling station?
Yeah, and that was something that was an issue. Basically, the city said when the temperatures get above 90 degrees, they had an outside cooling station you saw in that video. That's basically some fans set up by a cool spot where there's shade for folks who are homeless to go by and sit there and take a beat, try to beat the heat. Now, those are from when the heat index, we should say, not temperatures, but heat index feels like 90 to 95 degrees. If it's over 95 degrees, they'll be in this facility behind me. If it's between 95 and 90 degrees, they'll be at that cooling station. And if the temperature is below 90 degrees, then the city won't have either the cooling station set up by the fences or this cooling station that people can go inside and beat the heat. So it depends on what the temperature is. The more severe it comes here, less severe, a cool spot, and hopefully on a day like today, if you get some rain or something, the city doesn't have to worry, will not worry about opening the facilities, but I'm sure they're at standby in case the heat does go up.
All right, Richard Devane reporting live for us there in Gastonia. Richard, thank you, sir.
Want to bring in our Chris Mulcahy now. Chris, we were experiencing that intense heat just yesterday. Now we're also weather impact alert just because of the rain we could experience.
And I want to bring us back a little bit, and maybe some remember this more than others. So it was late June. It was about June 25th to the 26th that we had excessive heat. Yeah. We hit that 110-degree day. But there was also one night that you had storms that sat in one area that you had some flooding off of Tyvola Road. We had flash flood emergencies. Only reason why I bring that up is today's technically cooler than what we had yesterday, but it's a little bit more humid. So it's actually better storm fuel. And I think we have a very similar setup to what we saw that night, where it's hot, it's humid, it feels like 100 degrees plus, but you have a lot of those slow-moving storms that sit over one place.
Not a good combo.
Not a good combo. So yes, today is cooler, but it doesn't make it a better day. So let's get right to it. Yesterday we hit 98 degrees. The day before that we hit 98 degrees. Today 93, you're like, ooh, that's not too bad. But the problem is it's still going to feel nice and toasty associated with this. Our highs today are going to be that 93 to 91 degree range across Hickory and the greater Charlotte area. Some a little bit cooler than that. And then our real feel by 1 p.m., as you can see to the right, feeling like 100 degrees, and it'll still feel like 94 by 9 p.m. And these are heading the wrong direction. And so over the last couple of days, we've hit our hottest part of the day by about the 5 o'clock hour. But we're increasing the cloud cover that oftentimes is going to kind of stunt the growth of the temperature. And if we have any rain-cooled air, that's really going to inhibit that. But it still could feel as much as 100 degrees. I want people to note that. But we also have the flood potential, and I really want to focus in on that because this is our highest threshold and our biggest focus in the near term, where we have a flood watch that goes until 2 a.m. for our eastern counties. That's Stanley, Anson, and Richmond County, but then also for the entirety of the central part of North Carolina. We've been talking about it. There was deadly flash flooding that was associated with tropical storm, then soon tropical depression Chantal. Well, we have these areas that if they see any more excessive rain, it's not good. Now, there's been at least a couple of days of drying out, but I think that we could see an extended flood watch if we see excessive rain close to the Charlotte area today. But look at all the rain that fell. Those areas in the purple are representing over 7 inches of rain, upwards to about 10 plus inches by the radar estimate. Meanwhile, you haven't really seen that much for the greater Charlotte area. So we've actually been really drying out, but it's that heavy rain today and strong storms that could lead to more localized flooding tomorrow. But both today and tomorrow do have that flash flood threat. Luckily, the drains aren't too overwhelmed. It's usually a couple of days of this that lead to the worst flooding events, is what they saw over in Texas. Same thing in New Mexico. But it sometimes only takes one day. And Friday, we still have some flooding concerns again, but it's far less than I think the next 2 days. So our storm impacts over the next 3 will be number 1, flooding, number 2, lightning, as you have for any rounds of severe thunderstorms, with thunderstorms in general. And then number 3 is going to be winds. Hail have pretty much eliminated it for the most part. I think it would be up in the mountains that maybe could see this if you have a severe thunderstorm warning, but most likely this is going to be just a wind event here. But there's always a chance for smaller hail. I'm not going to discount that. Smaller hail just isn't going to cause any damage. This is for any severe hail that could cause some damage. Today is technically a double threat. Not so much the heat because we're outside of that warning criteria, but we do have a medium threat for flash flooding and a medium threat for severe storms, and that's mainly for the chance for those stronger winds. These are all going to be slow moving, and that's why we have a big cause of concern here. Oftentimes you can have a severe thunderstorm warning that's moving up to 45 miles per hour. That means it's in, it's out, no worries. You see some heavy rain, but it limits the flooding impact. When storms are moving at 10 to 15 miles per hour, which I truly think is going to be the general speed today, that's where you have things moving in slow motion, and that's where ups our flood threat. So our weather alert day today, as I mentioned, for those 2 threats, storms and flooding, those storms are going to develop really after 2. There's a slight sign that it's before then, but most storms after 2 o'clock, and a majority of them should be in the mountains at that hour. Then they slide off towards the east, and some of us might not really have their first storm until after 6 o'clock during the evening, and I think they could fade pretty quickly as we approach midnight, but they're sticking around for a long time. Here's the signs of storms that could be a little bit earlier. So I don't want to say, hey, you're not going to see storms early afternoon. I think that it's an outside chance. Most of it's going to be right here, as you can see, from Taylorsville to Morganton up to Alexander County and Caldwell County. That's 3 o'clock. Let me get out of the way. 6 o'clock, things are starting to join together between the I-40 and the I-85 corridor. This looks to be a good possibility. So early to mid-evening, let's call it 6 to 10 o'clock, that's where we have, I think, a lot of the slow movers. When they start to conjoin into one big mass, sometimes the back end or the front can lead to more development. And that's kind of what you see here. So here's 6 o'clock to 7, not a lot of movement here. 7 to 8 to 9 o'clock, it's slowly just moving its way, and eventually it has to burn itself out. But once it becomes this big of an area, it's really tough to fully get out of here. If it's 1 or 2 storms, it kind of burns itself out in 45 minutes to an hour, and you don't have to worry about it. And then maybe a new one can form a little bit further upstream or to the west or north or wherever that outflow is going to set up. But if you have rain sitting for 2 to 3 hours in the oranges and the reds, you're picking up 2 to 4 inches of rain in one given day. Now, not everyone's going to see that. That's an extreme measurement, and that's what some of the models are representing. So that's the reason why we're weather alert for today and tomorrow, and then also for just a cautious reason on Friday in case we do have some flood threats remaining. After that, we have a range of really 91 to 94 degrees, the usual summertime pattern. It's hot, it's humid, where you can have a pop-up shower or thunderstorm, but those chances do increase again the middle of next week. Let's see how your traffic is faring so far. Megan, what's the newest update?
Hey, Chris, the newest update is really not an update. It's still there. This truck on the ramp of US 321 as you are going eastbound on I-85. Still there. It looks like they got the big machines out to try to flip that on over, right side up. But this has been blocked for about 2 hours now. So let's take a look at some alternative routes that you can take on our map. This is 321. You can go to 279 and you get back on to I-85 to avoid that altogether. This is another accident that we were tracking. Looks to be on the shoulder at this point, I-77 near south near I-277, but it is slowing traffic down as they go onto that exit. That's going to be exit 11. And this is a look at the map there. You can see all of that red as you are heading down south. Another crash, I-85 southbound, crash at exit 54. This is Kannapolis Parkway. Lots of slowdowns there as well. Guys?
All right, Megan, thanks. Charlotte is working to close the gap between graduation and a steady paycheck.
And now in its second year, the Education to Employment program offers recent CMS grads a direct path to full-time jobs. Joining us this morning to talk about more is Sherry Jones. She's the Workforce Development Program Manager. Sherry, thanks for taking time. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
We know you have a graduation tonight. Exciting time. What kinds of jobs are these grads going to be filling?
Wow, they're going to fill some amazing jobs here with the city of Charlotte. We have 10 different types of occupations. We have terminal operations, lost and found in aviation, office assistant with CATS, which is the Charlotte Transit System, Area Transit System, STS reservationist with CATS. We have street crew member with CDOT, tree trimmer with general services, just a variety of great opportunities.
How did the Education to Employment program get started?
Yeah, so this is our second cohort. We did have a cohort with the class of 2024 from CMS, and this is a response to ongoing challenges faced by recent graduates who are not enrolling in college, maybe not enlisting in the military, and who are just on the employment track after graduating high school. And this opportunity, it really provides them with a more intentional and structured pathway to a meaningful employment with public service, within public service.
Taking a wider view of this issue, Sherry, as you likely know, Charlotte ranked at the bottom of the list about 10 years ago in the Chetty study for economic mobility. Basically, folks who were born into poverty struggled more here than any other city to get out of poverty. When it comes to economic mobility, what do these jobs mean for the city and for these students?
Yes, it means so much. You know, it's getting them gainfully employed. It's helping with talent retention. It's keeping them in the city, but they are positive contributors to the community because of this employment. They are, going to ensure the pipeline of skilled workers. They're being upskilled and reskilled in not just jobs, but in careers that are sustainable for them to live, thrive, and really be productive within the city.
Well, you talked about this being the program's second year. Do you have any success stories from the first year?
Yes, absolutely. You know, we have a 76 retention rate from the students that we hired last year, which is great. They have found so much value in the work that they do. We have many that are looking at this as a future career, something that they're going to be in for the long haul. We've had one to say he's going to be with the city of Charlotte for 30 years. They are already taking advantage of the other great benefits that the city of Charlotte has for its employees, such as career coaching and taking advantage of our tuition prepayment program that's aligned with and in partnership with Central Piedmont Community College. So they are really happy to know that there's room to grow. We have internal mobility, so they don't always have to pivot outside. They can stay within.
And we mentioned tonight's a graduation, a big night for some of these students and job candidates. What brings you the most excitement about a night like this?
What brings me the most excitement is that we have expanded the opportunities for the students from last year to this year. And, you know, it has grown, offering more job placements, stronger partnerships. You know, we're going to have a great 2-week workplace readiness training for them when they first start. So we've collaborated with all different employees within the city, as well as external partners, and also the community impact. This graduation celebrates not just their own achievements, but also the impact that it's going to have on their families, the neighborhoods, and our communities, and just the career paths that they're all going to take their first step in starting tonight.
I tell you what, it makes so much sense when you think about you have students graduating and you have a city that's growing and needs these jobs filled within a city government. So it makes you wonder what took so long to do it. But we're glad it's here, and congrats to all those folks graduating tonight. Sherry Jones, we're with Workforce Development. Sherry, thanks for taking time. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Sherry.
Thank you.
I want to switch gears now and talk about that flooding. Rescue and recovery efforts actually continue here in North Carolina this morning after Tropical Storm Chantal. So far, at least 4 people have actually died in the flooding. First responders say they're feeling the toll on their mental and emotional health this morning, since most live in the communities where they serve. Responders in areas like Pleasant Grove say that the rescues have been particularly stressful because they don't have a boat and they're not swift water rescue trained.
8:17 right now here on WCNC Plus, and now to New Mexico, where thousands are waking up to damage this morning after catastrophic flooding near Rio Doso. This is the same area where fires tore through last year, killing 2 people and burning hundreds of homes. Overnight, slow-moving thunderstorms brought torrential rain, triggering flash flooding along a river there. Some of this video shows what appears to be a home being carried away by the water there. Emergency crews carried at least 85 swift water rescues out, and right now at least 3 people are missing as of this hour.
Now to Texas, where the death toll is now up to over 110 people. Search and rescue efforts are underway this morning for the 160 people still missing after that catastrophic flooding.
There was an objection to sirens because of false alarms.
Do you think sirens could have saved lives here?
Most likely so, yes. Yes, I'm confident they could have.
Officials facing tough questions this morning over Kerr County's flood emergency alert system. Many folks say they weren't given enough warning, and Kerr County does not have a county-wide siren system. A former county commissioner says he proposed adding one after a 2015 flood, but funding requests were denied. Now, this all comes as search and rescue teams continue to sift through debris. NBC's Morgan Chesky has a closer look at the search for survivors.
With more than 160 missing in the Texas Hill Country,
we have another search party down there.
Tireless search and rescue teams fighting their latest challenge, time.
And that is the sound that is really nonstop, even on day 5 here on the banks of the Guadalupe River. These search crews still going.
Governor Abbott surveyed the damage at Camp Mystic from the air.
We will not stop until every missing person is accounted for.
The sheriff says 5 campers and 1 counselor are still unaccounted for, as we learn more about the young girls who lost their lives there. Blakely McCrory, Hadley Hanna, Lenny McCown, and Mary Stevens were all just 8 years old. This harrowing photo showing 1 cabin of girls, several now confirmed dead. When Kennedy returned to Camp Mystic on Sunday and took these pictures, a glimpse of what her 10-year-old daughter Lucy and her fellow campers went through. That's Lucy's bunk bed surrounded by debris. Tiny clothes still hang in a closet where the water line is several feet high. You can see it again here in the girls' shower. Lucy says she woke up that night to rain and thunder.
People from like different cabins started coming to our porch and yelling like, wake up and go to rec hall because there's a flood.
How would you describe that 4-hour window where you didn't know how Lucy was?
I mean, just the longest 4 hours of my life.
Lucy says when the sun rose, they drove to another camp where they were eventually evacuated by helicopter.
When I saw her, she was wrapped up in a blanket and had a teddy bear. So we just held each other tight, and I held her all night, and just so grateful to God.
Morgan Chesky, NBC News, Kerrville, Texas.
And oftentimes these flood events are just kind of compounded, that it's the rains before that lead to the eventual big break where these rivers get swollen up. And then here's a look at some of our most recent radar imagery. This is actually July 3rd to July 4th. And focusing right here on Kerrville, look at that. You're seeing widespread rain. This is actually leading into the morning of July 4th. Excessive rain, and then sometimes I think it was that final batch. This is a low pressure system that's rotating counterclockwise, that it was just hours of rain, but it was the final push. And you also have to realize that it's not always one location, especially along a river. That's water that's upstream that's also flowing down. So you can have several inches to 11 inches of rain upstream, and all that starts washing in, and then all that debris starts to bottle things up where it starts to expand past its banks. It was just honestly one of the worst flooding events that I've personally seen. And we just went through Helene. And Helene wouldn't have been an issue if we didn't have the days of rain beforehand. We're checking out some of these totals, estimating well over 10 inches of rain. This is over here in San Antonio, and that's just recently. So now there's new forms of a flood threat through there. Meanwhile, also in New Mexico, we saw excessive flooding right through this part because you had several days of rain. It's actually monsoon season over there. One of the common misconceptions that we have here is like, oh, it's monsooning outside. Monsoon's actually just a big wet season where 60% of New Mexico's rain usually comes in June, July, and August alone. And that's exactly what happened here. You had one thunderstorm. Eventually, you saw a lot more threats there as well. So we are actively watching today a little bit closer to home because of the same thing. One rain shower after another, and if we do it over a couple of days, it could lead to some flash flooding. But real quick, if you at any point today, tomorrow, or Friday receive a flash flood warning on your phone, that means that it is a considerable flash flood warning, and then that means that it's an immediate threat to life and property. Those are the ones that really need to catch your attention. The step above that is a flash flood emergency, and that's exactly what happened in Texas. I'm not saying you're going to see that scenario here closer to home, but just letting you know we do have a chance for some considerable flash flood warnings, and that's exactly what parts of North Carolina saw, and that turned deadly as well. So please stay weather alert for today and tomorrow especially. Let's head over to Megan to see what's going on. Another look at traffic.
Yeah, this is a live look right here at I-85. This is going to be eastbound. This is the ramp at US 321, that southbound ramp right there. You can see that crews are working to get that truck flipped right over. But this has been shut down for about 2 hours now. And you can see they brought the big guns out as they are trying to work to get that truck upright. Let's take a look at alternative routes right here. Not that. Here we go. Alternative route 321 to 279. You can take this back to I-85. This is a look at I-77. That's going to be near the 277. Looking pretty smooth. Right now there was a crash, but it did clear, so that is good. We do have this crash I-85 southbound at exit 54, which is Kannapolis Parkway. You can see a little slowdown there, but it looks like it is starting to move along. We also have this crash at NC 16 Providence Road. That's Fairview Road right there. A little slowdown there as well. Guys?
Megan, thanks. Time now to connect the dots. When we make the news make sense. Trying to stick to a workout routine, but keep falling off track, you are certainly not alone. It might have less to do with your willpower and more to do with just who you are. Having trouble sticking to your workouts this summer? Your personality might be the reason why. Let's connect the dots. A new study finds that personality traits can affect how much you enjoy exercise and how well it works for you. Researchers looked at the big 5 traits: extroversion, conscientiousness, openness, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Extroverts liked intense workouts, but didn't always stick with them. Conscientious folks did best with structured, goal-based routines. Those high in neuroticism, these are folks who are often anxious or moody, preferred low-intensity, solo workouts at home. They were also the only group to report lower stress after the program. Experts say the key is matching your workouts to your personality type. That makes it easier to stay consistent and enjoy it more. And that is connecting the dots. I will say I do get bored easily.
I do too.
After a while with the same workouts.
But I like intense workouts. So does that make me? Even though I am a little neurotic?
I don't know, but you're definitely neurotic.
Yeah, that's been confirmed.
Well, Chris, I mean.
Yeah, I mean.
What?
I mean.
I don't even have a routine or a workout, so.
Joke's on me, right?
Yeah, right?
All right, folks, take a live look right now over Uptown on your Wednesday morning. Standing by on this weather impact alert day for storms later on today. More details on your forecast and your traffic come your way right here on WCNC Plus.
Well, good morning, everyone. 78 degrees, now starting to warm up. As for the fog, we did have a little bit off towards the west, but now we are looking at perfect visibilities as of now. And today is going to be a weather alert day because we have a chance for storms, not just today, but really over the next 3 days, especially in the middle of the afternoon and a little bit later on heading into the evening. That's where I think you're actually going to see most of the activity. So let's quickly go through it. Your timeline for the storms, I think it's really right around 2 o'clock. We see a first signs of it, especially up in the mountains. They start to extend for the afternoon, but your best chance is really between about 5 and 10 o'clock. That's where things are most widespread. Still a chance for some severe thunderstorm warnings throughout the day into the evening, with a better chance for some flash flooding heading into the evening. So please be weather alert throughout the day. We have weather alert days for the next 3, as I mentioned. Thereafter, we are anticipating a really shift to the usual summertime pattern, lower to the mid-90s. It's hot, it's humid, with a chance for an isolated thunderstorm. Let's get over to Megan Bragg to see how traffic's faring.
Yeah, let's take a look at this traffic that we've been monitoring all day. This is Oh, okay. I'm coming up. Hi. This is I-85. This is going to be that ramp on 321. That is going to be still closed. So you are going to take this route, 321 to 279 back on I-85. Crews are working to get that truck flipped upright. So just know that that ramp is still closed at this hour. So right now we're going to send it back to the Today Show, but we are always streaming live on WCNC Plus.
Happy Wednesday to you. Joining us live here on WCNC Plus at 8:30. We certainly appreciate your time. I'm Caitlin Hagwood in for Lisa.
And I'm Ben Thompson. Folks, it's a weather impact alert day. We're tracking the chance for strong and slow moving storms today and again over the next couple of days.
Well, it comes as we learn at least 4 people have died due to flooding from Tropical Storm Chantal. 1 person in Alamance County, another in Orange County, and at least 2 in Chatham County. 3 of those happened while the victims were driving during peak flooding. Governor Josh Stein did visit Alamance and Orange counties yesterday to survey that damage. He praised first responders and neighbors who are offering support to the victims.
And it's what reveals the truth of North Carolina, which is when people need help, the people of North Carolina will be there for their neighbors.
Well, with more storms expected this week, the governor is urging folks to sign up for their county's emergency alert system.
8:31 right now, and it is a weather impact alert day. Chris joins us right now to walk us through what to expect in the coming hours and again over the next couple of days.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Ben. So here it is. You're looking at beautiful blue skies for the time being. It's like, oh, okay, no big deal. Well, what's going to happen is pretty quickly, we're going to start to form some cumulus clouds. Here's the beginning of them. This little flat bottom that you see in here, this is actually called the lifting condensation level. That's a fancy term for meaning, hey, clouds are starting to condense and turn into clouds. But it's that flat bottom that really shows the bottom of these guys. These will actually start to grow pretty quickly into the vertical. What's amazing is a thunderstorm starts off like this. And like this. This is the earliest stage you're ever going to see for a developing thunderstorm, all because of a cumulus cloud that just continues to grow. And since we're already seeing this early, we typically see this around the 11 to 1 o'clock hour, so right around or either side of noon. Seeing it already shows that we are going to have an active cloudier sky and a really ample atmosphere to develop a lot of thunderstorms. 77 degrees right now from Lincoln over to Statesville, over to Salisbury. 78 degrees right here around Charlotte and 79 here in Chirac. Soon we're going to be cooking into the 80s, and check it out, we're only getting into the lower 90s, but it's humid enough that we could actually have that real feel of 100 degrees hit by the early afternoon. Now, our model data is picking up that you're going to see a storm right at 1 o'clock. I'm not saying that absolutely is going to happen. I think it's a much better chance, it really is, we head into the back end of the forecast. I still think that we're getting into the lower 90s for the middle of the afternoon before those clouds start to take over. I have a high right around 93 degrees in Charlotte, showing a actually cooler forecast further east that you go. I think cloud cover is going to be a big factor there. And then 91 degrees for you in Hickory, and then barely trying to make it into the 80s up in the high country. The reason for that is because of the cloud cover and the thunderstorms first hitting there earlier. So today's hour by hour forecast, again, I think that we were feeling anywhere from about 95 to 100 degrees through the afternoon, and that muggy meter is still staying especially high today and tomorrow, right in that lower 70s range. That's primetime storm fuel. We also have a flood watch, but only for 3 counties because of the previous rain. It's Ewan Stanley, Anson, and Richmond County had a tremendous amount of rain from really the western side, which was Tropical Depression Chantal at that point. It was a tropical depression or a tropical storm to a tropical depression for a day and a quarter, so 1.25 days is what it says per the tropical storm outlook. And then our rainfall totals really were the highest, where we had some deadly flooding between Greensboro and Raleigh. Up to 10 inches of rain fell from that alone. And this, of course, if you're upstream from a river, that can flow things in, but then also it can happen in low-level areas such as an urban area as well. So weather impacts over the next 3 days. I think today and tomorrow are the highest threats for those heavier rains and also from some of those stronger thunderstorms. But those flooding concerns are still lasting into Friday. So that's going to be threat number 1. Of course, we have dangerous lightning, but it's also going to be that wind gust threat as well. So let's get right to it. Double threat, the flooding and your severe storms is all because of the setup. It's slow-moving storms. At times, I think they're going to be moving less than 15 miles per hour. That just allows one storm after another, really causing the big cause of concern. So let's slowly go through this. I think you have a sign of storms and a slight potential for this as early as 1 to 3 o'clock, but most of this is actively going to be up in the mountains at this point. Once you get to about 6 o'clock, that's where we're seeing the most widespread map here. I want to zoom in. This is the point that I'm really trying to hammer home. Notice how these aren't moving too much. This is 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. If you're having the red sit over an area for a 2-hour period, you're talking about up to 2 to 3 inches of rain. Once you get to the greens, you're looking at less than a 1/4 inch per hour. It's really just those oranges and reds that are anywhere from a 1/2 inch to an inch plus per hour. So some areas, I think realistically, when this is all said and done, could actively have 2 to 4 inches of rain from today alone. Then we'll have some scattered rain through the overnight, and then it's for your Thursday that we do it all over again, mainly from about 3 to 9 o'clock that you have some isolated storms that can develop, and then they could start to cluster together as you see here right around 8 o'clock. It just depends on where the most rain is going to fall in the short term. By Friday, you have a chance for isolated storms. It could aid the flooding, but I think it's going to be a whole lot lower than what we're seeing over the next couple of days. It just all depends on how much is actively going to fall. And it's actually really interesting. This most recent model update shows an excessive amount of rain through the course of tomorrow. Anywhere from about 2 to 4 inches of rain is going to be a possibility, so that's why we're staying extra weather alert, especially over the next couple of days. But we have thrown Friday in there because if there is an active, say, flash flood warning that really floods out certain areas, day 3 of this, any more thunderstorms could actually just be adding to the insult to injury, and then also some of those swollen streams could be an issue. So there's a chance that we're dropping this day off, but the next couple, definitely the most widespread, where today I think we see the most rain of the 3. After that, a 91 to 94 degree temperature range is what you can expect. And then we're also looking at only a slight chance for a thunderstorm each day this Saturday and Sunday. Better chances for storms on Monday, and then heading into the middle of next week. Stay weather alert and also stay traffic alert, because what's going on, Megan?
Yeah, lots going on this morning. Let's take a look at I-77. This is near that Uptown exit. You are going a little slow right as you head down south, but not too bad. Let's take a look at this, though. This has been shut down for several hours. I-85 eastbound entry ramp from US 321, that southbound, is blocked. Crews are working right now to get that truck upright, because we do know that there was a truck that did crash onto its side. So they are working to get that upright and that ramp back open. A few other accidents that we are tracking at this time. US 77, which is Independence Boulevard. As you will head into Charlotte, there's going to be a northbound crash at exit 244, which is Television Place. So this is causing a lot of backups as you head from Matthews to that Uptown area. We are also tracking this US 521 Johnson Road crash at Brixham Hill Avenue, which you can see is also causing a lot of backups as you head north as well. Looking at some drive times, though, right now, Matthews about 30 minutes, Belmont 30 minutes as well, and Salisbury, you're going about 52 minutes. It's going to take you to get into Charlotte. Guys?
We're learning new details this morning about the arrest of a local football coach. Damon Coiro coached at Providence Day School, but this morning he's waking up behind bars. Take a look. The 45-year-old admitted to having an inappropriate relationship with a student dating back to 2023. Investigators say he offered to buy her alcohol and made sexually explicit comments, even asking her to see her topless. He's being held on a $75,000 bond and was ordered not to contact that student. 8:38 right now here on WCNC Plus. And if you live in Wingate, or perhaps you drive through it on your way to the beach every single summer, this could impact you. A community meeting meant to clear up confusion about that town's police department may have raised even more questions. WCNC Charlotte's Tricia Woodard takes a closer look at who will be there when you call for help.
Wingate town leaders reassuring the community they're not just doing away with the police department. They say instead they're exploring better options that are cost efficient. Conversations continue to linger about whether the Wingate Police Department will close.
We came here looking for some answers. We wanted to look for some transparency.
Town leaders say the move comes down to 2 decisions: money and manpower.
Keep in mind that with the exception of the 4 months, we have not been fully staffed in 2 years.
They say along with those high turnover rates, the cost for 7 Wingate police has increased to $826,000, a price tag they anticipate exceeding over $1 million over the next few years. But town leaders say the enforcement won't disappear. A contract with the Union County Sheriff's Office would assign 4 officers to the area, averaging about $523,000 annually.
Let the Sheriff's Department do it. They do such a great job already.
While some folks say the move will save money and keep streets protected,
I don't see things getting worse. I see them continuing on and getting better.
Others argue it's a tough shift.
I really believe that we really need to keep our police officers.
Officers say they're willing to do whatever it takes to continue protecting its own community.
I'll share this with you guys. We've all agreed we will not take a pay raise. Our part-timers will not take one. Our full-timers will not take one. We're the lowest paid in the county. We're proud to wear that right now.
The Union County Sheriff's Office also speaking out in the meeting, saying they're already taking calls in this community. They say if a contract is signed, there will be high quality service. Of course, the final decision is set to be made next Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Reporting in Wingate, Tradisha Woodard, WCNC Charlotte.
Staying in Union County, now over to Monroe. City leaders there are sending a strong message overnight with a vote of no confidence for the mayor, Robert Burns. It all stems from a series of controversies, including divisive posts made on his Facebook page. The council also voted to remove Mayor Pro Tem David Dotson. Burns responded in a statement saying in part, quote, "The vote is nothing but a petty gripe session and a political hit because they have no legal standing." However, the vote is symbolic and doesn't lead to any sort of action.
Well, there is good news this morning for travelers. The Department of Homeland Security announcing that TSA will allow passengers to keep their shoes on as they go through security. NBC's Tom Costello breaks down the change and why TSA feels comfortable.
It's a major security shift at TSA checkpoints nationwide. Effective immediately, all passengers can keep their shoes on. No need to screen them separately. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says 94% of passengers now have real IDs, improving identity confirmation. And TSA procedures and checkpoints have improved.
We've added new scanners, new technologies, more TSO officers in some areas.
The TSA began screening shoes for explosives in 2006 after shoe bomber Richard Reed attempted to blow up a flight from Paris to Miami in 2001. While pre-checked passengers have been able to leave their shoes on, removing shoes has been a top complaint among all passengers.
For women, it's like, ew, I don't want to touch the floor.
In December, we saw how detecting explosives is still a top priority at the TSA range in Huntsville.
This is what's left, a piece of a shoe and the handle from a suitcase. The bottom line is this would have been catastrophic, and the TSA and the FBI continue to focus on mitigating the threat of potentially catastrophic explosives.
Security experts believe the terror threat remains real, even as new technology provides better detection and shoes stay on.
Secretary Noem says TSA PreCheck will still be valuable for passengers who don't want to remove their laptops, and she says passenger safety will not be compromised.
Tom Costello reporting for us there. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem also warns that you may still have to take your shoes off in certain situations.
The one thing that I will say is that doesn't mean that there won't be times once in a while where someone will have to remove their shoes. If they get put into a different situation or need additional layers of screening where that may be asked of them. But overwhelmingly, the policy will be that no longer will that be required of every single person that comes to a checkpoint.
Well, some of you at home have been asking us a couple of questions about the change. WCNC Charlotte's Megan Bragg verifies this morning.
This is true for certain airports because I actually experienced this myself. Monday, flying from Rochester, New York to Charlotte, the TSA agent told me as part of their new rule, I was allowed to keep my shoes on. This is in line with the press release TSA sent out Monday saying they are, quote, exploring new and innovative ways to enhance the passenger experience and our strong security posture. Nearly 20 years ago, the TSA implemented shoe removal for passengers while going through security. This after a man flying from Paris to Miami attempted to ignite a fuse attached to his shoe. People who purchase PreCheck are allowed to keep their shoes on while they go through security. Now that could be a reality for everyone. A senior government official told NBC News the Transportation Safety Administration will allow passengers at selected airports to keep their shoes on. We reached out to Charlotte Douglas Airport to see if this is being implemented here. And so far, they only told us in a statement, we can share CLT regularly coordinates with TSA and our federal partners to maintain secure, efficient screening operations and ensure a safe experience for all passengers and employees. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
Now to some health news. Measles cases in the U.S. are now the highest they've been since we eliminated the disease in 2000. The health department reports that more than 1,200 cases have been reported so far. The country also recorded its first measles death in a decade. The resurgence can be attributed in part to declining vaccination rates.
In related news this morning, several major medical organizations now suing Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and the Department of Health and Human Services. The organizations say recent actions around vaccines have triggered a public health emergency. Kennedy's department recently fired all members of a key vaccine panel of experts and removed a recommendation that children and pregnant women get a COVID shot. A lawsuit seeking a return of those recommendations. In Washington now, President Trump talking tariffs, trade, and the wars in Ukraine and Gaza.
He covered a lot in yesterday's cabinet meeting, including some harsh new words for Russia's president. NBC's Alice Barr breaking it all down this morning.
President Trump with his cabinet at his side, focusing on foreign wars and trade negotiations.
I just want you to know, a letter means a deal.
Saying overnight new trade announcements are coming this morning for 7 countries after sending letters to 14 global trading partners on Monday, establishing higher tariff rates if they don't negotiate new deals before August 1st.
It's a better way. It's a more powerful way.
The president also announcing a new 50% tariff on copper imports without setting a date, and saying new pharmaceutical levies of up to 200% are coming. As countries scramble to respond, Chinese officials warning the U.S. against reigniting trade tensions, promising retaliation if any deals hurt their economy. Turning to Ukraine, where Russian attacks are ramping up, President Trump confirming he approved sending more defensive weapons to Ukraine after the Pentagon paused shipments, citing concerns about low stockpiles.
Putin is not treating human beings right. He's killing too many people.
In a shift in tone, the president voicing increasing frustration with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
We get a lot of bull thrown at us by Putin, for you want to know the truth.
Now reviewing a bipartisan sanctions package against Russia, as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu meets today with Republican lawmakers and top defense officials amid a renewed push for a ceasefire with Hamas to end the devastating fighting in Gaza and bring hostages home. The White House is also celebrating a Supreme Court ruling that allows the Trump administration to move ahead, at least temporarily, with the mass layoffs of federal workers at 19 agencies, overruling a California judge who had said the administration needed input from Congress. The Supreme Court did not rule on the legality of the layoffs, but cleared the way for the firings while litigation continues. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Well, welcome back to our weather report. We are actually looking at some harrowing images. So this is the water line that came from the flooding that happened in Texas from July 3rd to July 4th. And some of the images you're just seeing here, and it just breaks your heart that so many people are missing. But I really want to put this in perspective. So I was looking at some of the river gauges, and at one point, so the Guadalupe River, right around where this took place, at 6 a.m. was at 1.82 feet. By 7:45, so less than 2 hours later, it was at 34.29 feet. So it really just shows how quickly that rose, and this is absolutely the definition of flash flooding. So the images that come out of this, it's oftentimes that you hear about these events from tropical storms, but just how quickly that water rose. And this is a little bit more inland. This isn't right along the riverbanks. And what happened at that camp, just thoughts and prayers that there are still so many people missing. And this is one of the worst flooding events outside of any tropical system that you're probably going to see in your lifetime. And it's just crazy to see that. So 32 feet that river rose in less than 2 hours. And I actually want to show you real quick. Here is all the rain that happened from Thursday heading into Friday. So right around here, that's the point of entrance where we were just looking. So watch, this is Thursday night, just seeing one thunderstorm after another after another. It just sat in place right here, and that's swelling up the rivers because it's not all the time exactly what's happening because the river flows this direction. Look what's also happening away from this heavier rain. you're seeing more heavy rain upstream. So that all starts to compound along the river, and why this just led up to just such an epic event. And there were flash flood emergencies that were put out for the amount of rain that was coming down there. But hey, not everyone's going to receive those alerts. But I also do want to make a really good point here that if any time over the next couple of days or any time in your life going forward, if your cell phone is pinged with a flash flood warning, that doesn't mean just, hey, low end flash flood warning criteria. If you're being alerted on your phone, that means that within whatever the polygon is on the map, within that area for the GIS coordinates, that there is some considerable flash flooding that is leading to endangerment of property or life nearby. So it doesn't mean you're directly impacted, but especially those along the streams. Whenever you have a flash flood emergency, that's catastrophic. There was about 13 to 15 flash flood emergencies from Helene. We had them during Florence, and there certainly was ones in Texas from this event. So I just want everyone to kind of keep that in mind in the back of their heads. If you're alerted on your phone, that means it's not just happening. That means it's actually reached a really rare and dangerous level. So let's quickly go through the futurecast. I'm not saying that you're going to see what happened in Texas. I'm not saying you're going to see a repeat of what happened just east of us between Greensboro and Raleigh for the rain. I'm just letting you know that if you have one rain shower after another, that leads to excessive flash flooding. If you have days beforehand that prime the soil, that makes it worse. That's why we're weather alert over the next 3 days, because of the constant flood potential. Here's a look at 5 p.m. today. At that point, you're looking at scattered showers and thunderstorms. I think there's a good point, especially later on heading into the evening, that all these are going to conjoin. And at this point, some areas could see heavy downpours for 2+ hours. That's where you have that flooding potential. So today, not only do you have a chance for severe thunderstorms during the afternoon, heading into the evening with gusts up to 60 miles per hour. Some of these could be sitting in one place or one storm after another, that you have 2 to 4 inches of rain over the next couple of days, and 2+ inches even possible from today alone. This joins into the evening, and then we'll start to dissipate some of the rain heading closer to about midnight with some scattered rain behind that. And then we do it all over again. I think it's mainly between about 3 and 9 for your Thursday. Scattered showers and thunderstorms. These will be fairly slow moving. I think tomorrow they move a little bit quicker than what they're going to be moving at for today. And then once you get to about 9 o'clock, we're clearing the slate. And then by your Friday, only a few isolated pop-up thunderstorms. So there's a chance that we might be dropping off the weather alert for your Friday, but for right now, we're going to keep it active. Your futurecast rainfall, check this out. This is just through 10 p.m. I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but this is the worst case scenario that I'm seeing. Most areas about 1 to 2 inches today, possible from those thunderstorms, but there is a chance that some areas today alone could have 3 to 4 inches. Stay weather alert. And again, if you are pinged on your phone, that means that a bad situation has gotten worse, and I hope that that is not the case in the scenario anytime soon. Over the next 3 days, weather alert because of those severe thunderstorms and thunderstorms in general and the flooding potential. After that, it's the usual summertime pattern, 91 to 94 with a chance for an isolated thunderstorm. Those isolated thunderstorms become a little bit more scattered again, though, Monday heading into the middle of next week. Let's see what's going on with my friend Megan, who's had quite the traffic morning.
Yeah, it's been quite the morning, but we are getting along. This is I-77 near Tryon. There is an accident right near exit 6, which is near Tryon Street. You could see the traffic was going a little slow there. It's northbound, so some backups there. I also want to talk about this that's been shut down for several hours now. I-85 eastbound, that's going to be the entry ramp at US 321. It's going to be southbound blocked. So that truck trying to get upright again, as we showed you the live pictures all morning. This a crash on US 74, which is Independence Boulevard. It's going to be north as you are heading into Uptown, exit 244 Television Place. You can see all of that red. That means stop and go traffic. US 521 2 at Johnston Road. There's a crash at Brooksham Hill Avenue. So lots of crashes right now around Charlotte. Be careful while you are out and about driving this morning. Guys?
8:53 right now on WCNC Plus. And if you're having trouble in the dating department, maybe a friend is too, you may want to check out history books. Research shows most of the problems people face today were already discussed by ancient Greek and Roman writers. They just didn't have to swipe left or right or have those dating apps. For example, the Roman poet Ovid wrote about the art of love some 2,000 years ago. He said you got to go out and find somebody because your love is not going to appear out of thin air at your apartment on South End. That's what he said. Overall, ancient thinkers believe that being in love helped people become the best version of themselves. I can't disagree with that.
Yeah, got to get out there.
Got to get out there. Even the Greeks and Romans knew it.
They knew it. You gotta just
change your routine.
Yeah, it shows that throughout the years, millennia, that the same tried and true things remain true. Humans are, I guess, very predictable.
We are so predictable, aren't we?
No, we don't change that much.
Think like a philosopher.
Right. Exactly.
Yes,
right.
exactly.
Well, we're going to take a quick break here, but keep it on WCNC Plus. Coming up, we're going to have a quick update on your weather and traffic, but stay with us. Got a live look here from our Live Impact News studio. Jay Monreal joining us in just a moment.
Well, good morning, everyone. 93 degrees today. Yesterday was a high of 98, so it's a little bit cooler, but still feeling like 100 degrees, so not really a big difference in the real feel. We have flood watches only for Stanley, Anson, and Richmond County that go until 2 a.m., but all of us have a chance for some flooding. Here's your storm timing. It's really late afternoon heading through the evening, especially during the evening hours. I think most of this rain will fall, so make sure to stay weather alert as that rain is starting to roll through. Chance for flash flooding and even a severe thunderstorm warning today, so we have everything. That's why we're weather alert over the next 2 to 3 days. By the weekend, pretty much what you would expect for a typical summer day. Hot and humid with an isolated storm. Megan, take it away.
Yeah, let's take a look at traffic right now. This is I-77 northbound as you take a look near Tryon. There is an accident right around there. You can see that crash slowing some folks down as they head through Uptown, as they head up to Uptown, I should say. And this is still blocked. I-85 eastbound entry ramp, US 321 southbound still blocked, working to get that tractor upright again.